Hey everybody, Ben Labadie here, and I am with Margaret Schleier-Stahl, and she is a Liberal candidate for Chatham-Kent-Leamington. So we're here. I'm a little bit nervous, I'll be honest with you, because I've never interviewed anybody, so yeah, so bear with me.
You're doing great.
So we've had a couple questions come in, and if you guys are watching on this replay now, or sharing it, you can still comment after, and Margaret will probably be able to answer your question. So if you don't get your question answered live because you weren't here, you were doing something else at the time because it is noon, feel free to comment and you'll kind of hopefully be able to answer those after. So,
best of my ability.
So yeah, anytime you want to, please hit that share button. And if you have questions, hit the like button and ask questions. So we're going to talk about a little bit before we get into the questions that some people have already asked. How do you get into politics? Like, where did this, if you connect the dots, how did you end up kind of here? Like, where did it start?
Okay, well, that's a really good question, and so many people have asked me about that. But I guess I'm not sure if I ever had a heart for politics or a drive for politics. But I've always had a care for people.
Okay.
And back when I was in grade 6, we just talked about this with some individuals this morning. Back when I was in grade 6, I was approached by the teachers and the principal of my school to become a page in Parliament.
Okay.
By the Right Honourable Herb Gray. I was in the Windsor West riding at the time. And that really helped sort of pave the way to where I am today, because I didn't become a page. We got the final documents in, and it was $264 at the time for an individual to actually pay monthly to become a page.
To become a page.
To become a page. So there was shelter was covered, but there was cost for you to go up and food, those sorts of things, and it was going to cost you that much each month. And my father being an auto worker at the time, we just felt like we couldn't do that at that time. Now those things have changed, and as I grew up as a teenager, I looked into some of those things, and they had changed already. Now there is no fee, so it certainly opens the door for every individual, not linked directly to their income, to become more involved in politics. And that's what I think is very important, so that we all have a chance at the table. We all have a chance at the table. We all can feel equal and be empowered.
Right.
I moved on through high school and became chairman of our student council. And again, I did that. It was more gathering people together and being able to talk to people and make them feel comfortable. And then when I approached University of Windsor, and attended school for my first degree, my Bachelor of Social Work, they approached me to become a student ambassador there. So I was a student ambassador for the University of Windsor, and I gave tours to prospective students and their families and teachers from across Ontario who were interested in hearing about the university and just being an ambassador for the university. So those are some of the things that sort of brought me. How did I get to where I am today? It kind of has been a whirlwind. I know people have approached me over the years. I'll be 50 years old this year. And people have approached me and said, we think you would do really well in politics. You've worked municipally, provincially, with federal legislation. You know how to promote legislation, yet you're real. And we feel like we can approach you. And so that's kind of what got me to this point today. With the actual final straw that determined that I would do this now was I was able to get some income tax money back. That's what it boiled down to. Because in order for me to do this, I have to take 5 weeks without pay.
Okay.
So I no longer have a home. I sold that at the end of last year. I'm in an apartment right now.
Didn't sell it with me though.
No, oops. I didn't, but I can't even say who I sold it with, but I did do, yeah. All right, sorry about that, but you know what? Sometimes those things happen. Nonetheless, so I don't have a mortgage right now, and I don't have that income for 5 weeks, and I got some income tax money back, so I thought I can do this right now.
So all the stars kind of lined up to create that situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
The puzzle pieces, I keep saying, I can't believe how these puzzle pieces keep coming together in order for me to.
I always look at it like connecting the dots afterwards.
Okay.
So, you know, how you get here is, and all of a sudden these dots all connect and line up. So, are you from Chatham originally? When did you come to Chatham? If you're not, like, how are you here?
Okay, so back when I was a teenager, I ended up meeting someone, and I got married and moved to Leamington. I was born and raised in South Windsor, and but very well linked to the Leamington community. We had relatives and friends who lived out in Leamington. Met someone and moved to Leamington probably in my very early 20s. Spent a lot of time there before that as well. Lived there for 17 years, worked right away with the municipality of Chatham-Kent.
Okay.
So it was working in Chatham-Kent, volunteering in Chatham-Kent. My family was in Leamington. My kids went to school in Leamington. My daughter ended up going to school years later in Chatham as well. So kind of really well linked to the whole community. I ended up building a home several years back just outside Rondo Park. So I'm familiar with that area. And had a home in Chatham and Prestantia at one time.
Okay.
And lived in Leamington prior to that. So kind of, have spent quite a bit of time throughout the riding, and I think that's why people approached me as well. They know I've spent some summers on Peely Island, and they've said to me that you're really well linked to all areas of this riding, because this riding is really unique. We have 4 municipalities.
I did not even know that myself. I did not know.
Yeah, there's 4 municipalities that are a part of this riding, which
Okay.
has just recently, it used to be the Chatham-Kent-Essex riding,
Right.
when Pat Boyd was in the seat as MPP, and now it's become Chatham-Kent-Leamington because Lakeshore is a part of it. Peely Island is their own municipality, Leamington, and then Chatham-Kent.
Awesome.
Municipality of Chatham-Kent. Yeah.
So it's a big space she has to cover. So, hey guys, if you're watching, please hit the share button. Do not be scared to ask questions. That's why we're here. And the whole idea is, how do we become more engaged with our politicians? How do we ask them questions? How do we bring them to us so we can share our concerns, our questions, and bring up our issues? And luckily, Margaret is here today to answer some questions that we have. So we do have a couple questions that came in earlier. I did a little Facebook Live about an hour ago to see. And the first one is there a plan to support the development of the Navistar property? And I understand that this is more a municipal thing, but this is actually because the size of the property. Mm-hmm. This is, it has to go much bigger than that. So it's maybe not just municipal of a concern, and more provincial. Do you have any ideas in regards to this, or is there a plan, or how would the provincial kind of level kind of help out?
Well, those are really good questions. And again, I've been doing this for 15 days. And I've tried to do some research in terms of what is available and what sort of funding is available for us. I do know you have a heart. I met you the other day. You have a heart for a
sports
complex.
Yes.
Complex. And one thing I do know about that, my son played hockey for years at South Point in Leamington, and we attended that double ice pad arena for many, many years. Also went to that was the shirt complexes as well, and so they have many classes there as well. Took my kids there for swimming. I was lucky enough in the last few weeks to work out of Gable Reese, and Gable and Reese were very instrumental themselves. Both gentlemen, one was a doctor, and one was very instrumental in the organization of that beautiful pool in Blenheim, and one was very instrumental in the funding for that beautiful pool in Blenheim. Again, we have our why that's here, but I know that what we're looking for, and people have approached me for this, as with not only you, other people have stated, because I've been across the province in different arenas. My son played for Ryerson as well, and he also played junior A hockey. So he's been very linked to the arenas. He worked out of the Matamay Center. He's in his 4th year at Ryerson, and very well linked to sports. Not only hockey, but very much soccer. We went over to Europe, and we saw how those communities are brought together by things like massive, wonderful, beautiful, not only arenas, but soccer complexes.
Right.
And I think this is the wave of our future as well. I mean, we want to get more active in Chatham-Kent. So this just reaches out to so many different levels and just touches so many different lives. If we can physically become more active, then our health issues are not as much of a concern. We know that statistically. If we can come together collectively with other people in terms of our arenas and our sports complexes. I mean, that's a great idea. So the question was around developing Navistar property. I would have to delve into that. I would have to gather people together. But this is what I've learned. And I've been around Europe, and I've been across Canada. I've been through the United States. I've talked to a lot of people. And I've learned that when you come together collectively and you come up with ideas that suit you and you're empowered, where it's not coming from the top down, telling you how things are going to go, but you're actually empowering other people, you're coming together, you're saying, these are our needs. This is what we'd like to see.
Right.
That's gonna make a difference and also make people feel like their voice matters.
Absolutely.
And their families matter.
Yes. Okay. Hey, Dwayne. Hey, Mary. Hey, Johnette. Thank you guys for coming in. And again, we're just asking questions, getting to know Margaret here. And, you know, Johnette, we got a question. What issues does Margaret see as priorities for her that would benefit the riding of Chatham-Kent?
Okay, good question, Johnette. Some of the things that people have approached me with were certainly, I mean, the build the barrier has been a big issue. Putting us back on the map. People feel like they haven't been heard at Queen's Park. They feel like the current MPP has not had their voice heard, only a collective small group of people, or maybe a smaller percentage, but maybe those who have more funding or more influence that way. It hasn't been a diverse approach to individuals right across the riding, because our riding is so big. So some of the issues were build the barrier. Some of the issues are bring Queen's Park down around our southern Ontario again. Me personally, and people have stated this as well, is the high-speed rail. We need to get people in and out of our community. I've used high-speed rail all across Europe in different countries. I've used it in France, I've used it in Germany, I've used it in going through Austria, and I used it in Italy last summer. High-speed rail gets our youth coming in and out of our communities. It could get our youth staying here. So I think it's something that we need to really make a priority. I do know that there's a very big issue with building the proper building for our children's treatment center. And our children are nonpartisan in this. And there is, you know, we have done a great job. The Liberal government has done a great job with services and with the staff at the Children's Treatment Center and providing the services we need. They are still at a point where they need to now move forward. It's been since 2011 they've needed a building. The local MPP has not been the advocate that he could be, or that building should have been started. I believe that I really would take that to Queen's Park. It's a necessity. Our children, we need to care for them, not cut programs that will become chaotic. So those are some of the things that I really believe in. I believe in our children, I believe in our health, I believe in our physical, mental health, and physical health. And I think collectively we could come together and certainly address some of those issues. And building the barrier is an issue, again, because it's our safety. So great question, Johnette. There are so many, I feel like, priorities, but those are just a handful of some of the main things that people have come up to me and really stressed.
Yeah, thank you, Johnette, for throwing in a question. And anybody else that wants to put in a question, let me know. One concern I have, and it goes not just the current MPP, but also the Liberal MPP that we've had in the past, Chatham-Kent, and now Chatham-Kent-Leamington, but I'm more focused about the whole Chatham-Kent part of it, because there is such a sizable area. We kind of feel like we always get left out. So when you do speak of high-speed rail, you know, there's many and legitimate concerns that that's not going to ever get to us.
Okay.
All right. Or all these other things that just, it seems that we've never been represented by anybody. It seems to make Chatham-Kent more almost on the map. Okay, and I've been concerned with our current MVP. I was concerned about our past Liberal MVP. So I've always had that concern. How can you be different? How do you feel that you are the answer to that question? Like how are you going to answer in being more vocal and putting us out there?
Okay, that's a great question. And I am the person. I am the MPP that's going to put Chatham-Kent-Leamington back on the map. And here are the facts. Here's the proof that I can do that. So I've done this for 15 days right now. I've removed myself from my job as a social worker with the municipality of Chatham-Kent to do this position. And in 15 days, I've had discussions with 3 different ministers. I've made my way up to Queen's Park and really tried to get vocal up there. I've spoken to Minister McGarry. She is the Minister for Transportation. I've spoken to Arthur Potts. I've spoken to Minister Couteau, who's children and youth. I've spoken to a minister that is overseeing issues with, you know what, I forget her name. I'm human. I totally forget her name. But I talked to her up there. I also spoke to Margaret Atwood. She's an author, and she has a real passion for Pelee Island environmental issues. And I was with her a couple weeks ago at their Pelee Island Birders Observatory fundraiser, and we had some discussion around what is happening in terms of caring for our environments. And I've also a wonderful discussion with Dr. Danielle Martin. She's the vice president of Women's College Hospital, and she wrote a book called Better Now. I shouldn't quote myself, but it's 6 great ideas. You'll remember Dr. Danielle Martin went down with Bernie Sanders.
Okay, keep going.
And Bernie Sanders, I guess I'm saying hums and all.
Yeah,
okay,
you're getting there with the hums off.
Stop that.
Now, just it's almost impossible, Dwayne. I've tried this, and if you watch all my lives, it's rough to stop hums and ahs. I'm like the king of hums and ahs. So okay, so
but I'll try that, Dwayne. Yeah, I get passionate, and that's how I speak. So we'll try to stop that. Yeah, and there I did one right there.
Tough crowd.
Dr. Danielle Martin was the vice president of Women's College Hospital. She went down with Bernie Sanders and spoke to Congress down in the States, and she talked about healthcare and pharmacare. And I was able to speak with her a few weeks ago. She has a real passion for Ontario and our healthcare system. So I think those are some of the things I could do in the last little bit, just the last 15 days. How could I put us back on the map? Minister,
like voice.
Yeah.
Just nobody feels that the voice is there. Like, especially when something like high-speed rail comes, like, and people are talking about it. Most people have such a doubt that would come our way, right? Like, there's no even thought that this is an opportunity, like, because people just don't feel it, you know. Yeah.
I have had a voice for people in every gamut, I think, of life, across Chatham, Kent, Leamington. Let me give you an example. So 2 different times I went overseas. Saying a lot, Dwayne, sorry, I'm working on it. 2 times I went overseas. Once I went to Haiti to a medical clinic to help out there.
Okay.
Again, very different, but I was able to learn a lot down there and bring some of that information back up here, but also to be an ambassador of what we do here and how we do things down in Haiti. The other thing I went to that was very interesting, I was given a booklet because I lived at Retro Suites at the time when my home was being built, and I went to London, England, and I attended a auction with RM Classic Cars. And I remember speaking to several individuals there. And one individual I started walking around with, he said, "Oh, you're from Chatham-Kent. What is that like? We know that the individuals here are from Chatham-Kent and they're very unique. It must be very unique." And so I started to tell them a little bit about our riding, which is amazing. 2 provincial parks, a national park. I guess we need to train all of the people who reside here to be better stewards or better ambassadors. And that's our issue. That's an issue I think from the MPPs. You mentioned you felt both MPPs had not really represented us well or put us on the map.
Yeah.
I don't feel we're on the map either. This is really why I want to run, because I feel like I have brought people down here. I have brought people to see what we have here, and they're in shock that there is so much out here. The birding that we do even in Rondeau, the birding that we do in Leamington, people are coming from all over Europe to see these sorts of things. This is all over the globe, really. We've had people from Australia recently and groups of people from several different countries. So I think we need to train ourselves to be really good ambassadors. I'm a facilitator and I am a trainer, so I think if we have groups of people, have public input, have think tanks, if we try to showcase some of the things that we have, if we know them well, if we know our riding well. I've probably had 4 or 5 dozen people ask me, what is our riding? Where does it end?
Yep.
How big is it? What's a part of it? So we've got to know that ourselves, and this is a big learning curve for me, and I'm really trying to, get to know our riding well, but I have been embedded in a lot of areas in our riding. So I think that's why I could be the ambassador. People have approached me because they think I can, and I believe I can.
All right. Okay, so again, thank you guys for watching. We're going to go into a little bit more here. Feel free to ask more questions. We're going to go to one of her critics here, the Stop Summons Dogs. So we're going to hit you with Dwayne Weaver. We're going to hit her up with your question. Are you proud of the job Justin is doing?
Great question, Dwayne. And I get that quite often. Justin was here on October 24th, 2006 at Club Lentinas, and Justin and I had a really good discussion about equality, and I think that's where it starts. You are not going to get instant gratification with any human being, with any level of government, with municipal, provincial, federal levels of government. This is what I know that our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, is doing, and he's doing it very well. He is trying to embed equality. And yes, if you look globally, we do look like a country that has it together. We look like a country that cares for its people. And that's why I think it's important that we understand people can have opinions. People can have opinions, but the facts remain. Our country looks like a country that has it together, that is trying to move forward and trying to address some of the issues. Is one person going to be happy if another person's sad? Like that's what this balancing this scale is, and this is what I'm just working through. So Dwayne, if you have some ideas about that, I don't know how we can make one group really happy without making the other group upset. And so I think we need to be a bit more open-minded. That's what the bottom line is with politics. I see a lot of angry people lately, and they're angry with either their local representation or they're angry with the government, or they were angry years ago. I had a good discussion with our previous MPP. He was our MPP for 16 years here. It was Chatham-Kent Essex prior to this, and it's Pat Hoy. And he said, Margaret, if you go in there and care about people and you listen to people, they will know you have a heart for them and you're trying to move forward. Hey, look, you know what? I took this on because I have now 22 days left, I guess, 23 days left maybe, until Election Day. And either you'll get someone in that seat who has a voice for you, who has a drive, who has a passion, who is passionate about Chatham-Kent-Leamington, who's an ambassador, or you won't. That's what'll happen.
All right, let's see here. Chris, you got a question here. Do you think the government can make use of a lean approach? In manufacturing, we had to lean out and become more efficient. Learn to do more with less. I see what I believe the government is doing, and Chris, the problem is we are trying to hit that, see more. I see what you believe the government's doing with less, more. What are your thoughts on the less is more, doing more with less type thing? Is that what I'm getting there, Chris? Am I getting that right? Nicole, we're going to get to yours shortly here.
Wow, okay, that's a really good question. I think let's be clear about what you're asking. Are you asking about, because you mentioned,
This is us having problems trying to figure out how Facebook works. So do you think the government can make use of the lean approach? In manufacturing, we had to lean out and become more efficient, learn to do more with less. I see what I believe is the government doing less with more. What are your thoughts? So he's saying like you got a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of workers, and you're doing less. That's how you feel, right, Chris? So it's the opposite of the do more with less.
Well,
good question.
I guess here's my approach, and here's what I believe. I believe that when you need to do things that are detrimental to the health and well-being and moving people forward, you have to invest in them. You have to invest in programs. You have to invest in infrastructure. You have to you think, more with less, but what it needs to happen is you do have to have an investment. Who doesn't have a mortgage? I mean, you invest in things because you believe in things.
You don't have a mortgage.
I don't. I'm about the only one. Who doesn't?
Fact check. Okay. I think what
but why do people have mortgages? Because
Yeah.
they invest in things
Yeah.
that are they're passionate about. Why do they invest in schooling, even though we're going to have free tuition if we vote the right way? If they invest in schooling, they invest in things that mean a lot to them. Why do they invest in a stock or in a bond? You invest in things. You put money into things.
I think what he might be kind of leaning towards is, how can we be more efficient? I believe, Chris, is how can we really do these things with a more of a plan to get the most bang for your buck? Because when I want to go out and get something, invest in something, I want to get the greatest return.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And if we are not efficient, that return kind of dwindles, whether it be if we're getting better health or better return on our money. Is that kind of what you're saying, Chris? Is that, kind of that line of things?
Oh, to cut costs. Yeah, Chris, thank you. What a good question. And I want to thank everyone who's sending questions, and it just shows the democratic process, that people really care and they're engaged, and that you're doing this is just remarkable. And I think it's wonderful that Chatham-Kent is doing this. Yeah, becoming more efficient to cut costs. Do you know what I really think, Chris? I think sometimes people need to be engaged in or at the boardroom table from every level of income. And I don't think that has really happened in the past from either party. For me to do this was really difficult financially, for me to run like this. So I know what a dollar means. And in order to do things more effectively, I think we all need to come to the table, all of us, municipally, provincially, and federally, and be honest about what is important. And in that way only can we cut costs. But at what cost do we cut costs? We have to determine what our priorities are, but to do that together. A think tank, a public meeting, coming together and deciding what's important to Chatham-Kent Leamington. What do we really want our MPP to go to the table and promote our riding or promote our interests in? Returning on gross assets, it's an excellent question. It can be somewhat complex, but the bottom line that I believe is when you're doing things like investing in your infrastructure, your communities, your economics, and the economy, trying to build it up, I think you do have to determine at what cost and at what benefit. And that it goes back to simple math for me. That if you're investing in people, those investments are things that are going to last for a lifetime. So sometimes it is short-term pain, but it's a long-term gain.
All right, Chris, hopefully that kind of answered your question. I know not always easy to answer questions, and some of the questions are actually really great. So Nicole, how are you doing? Thank you for coming in. Tourism is one aspect. What will you do to entice more companies to open shop in the Chatham-Kent Leamington area? So Chatham-Kent, I'm guessing you're from Chatham area, Nicole. So what can you do for tourism?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and I think I've already promoted tourism. I've had relatives and friends come over from Europe, and we've toured the area, gone clearly to the provincial parks. I've had friends stay at, I don't know if I can mention a business, anyway, a boutique hotel that's downtown, and promoted the areas, gone to different breweries and different restaurants, and really tried to promote this area to them. And they have said, oftentimes when people come here, it's true, they've said it to me, and I'll just say it, this is one of the best kept secrets. Like, who takes a downtown core that is not thriving as much and builds a boutique hotel? I mean, that's brilliance. That's where you're going to get people in, you're going to get people around downtown, you're going to, okay.
Let's see here.
Okay, you're going to get people around downtown and you're going to build up that tourism for sure.
Okay, so and now we're going to expand that to manufacturing. What can you do? What plan could you have in place to bring, and this goes back to another thing, is we've lost automotive manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
What can you possibly do to bring these jobs back, or bring these entrepreneurs or investors to open up shop right here? Is that what you're saying, Nicole? Like, because everybody kind of feels that nobody's opening up big shops here for good paying jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And what can we do? What can you do to kind of facilitate and bring and promote and market that to bring people to actually open up shop here?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So my father was an auto worker, and he spent some time really concerned about Navistar, what was happening here. He had a great idea, actually, with Navistar. He was saying that, and he approached Buzz Hargrove at the time and said, why don't we get the retirees? He was the vice president of the retirees for Local 195. Why don't we get the retirees to actually come on the picket line so there won't be that much, people can get very upset and volatile or whatever sometimes when they're passionate about something. So, but that never ended up happening, and I kind of wish that would have happened because we had such devastation around the closing of Navistar. Manufacturing is a big issue. Nicole, do I have a magic wand? I'm not going to pretend to be part of a party that's just going to make everything wonderful, and we're going to give all these things, yet we're going to cut back on all these things. That's just not simple. That just doesn't make sense mathematically. It's not fiscally responsible, and we need to be very, very careful when we hear that kind of language. Manufacturing, we have a wonderful workforce development group that discusses labor market information and reviews what can be done to bring more companies here. I'd like to look not only across Canada, I'd like to see globally what other communities are doing, what other countries are doing, how you start to really invest in your community in terms of manufacturing. The other really good point, I think, Nicole, is to make sure we promote what people are doing here in Chatham, Kent, Leamington, and we promote it so that they can become innovative. We can promote research and development, which other parties have not been supportive of. We know we need to be able to, if we're going to have manufacturing jobs here, we need to be connected to the rest of the province, and that again means high-speed rail. And the Liberal Party is very, very committed to high-speed rail and bringing our youth back here. That's a big part of it as well. I have two adult children now, and both of them have said, they're in Toronto now, one's still in school and one's working in Toronto, but the other one, they've said they would come back here more, but it takes them hours on this train to get home. It actually is most of a day sometimes with the stops that are there. So that's important. And if we want people to be here and setting up shop, as you said, then we need to take those things into consideration, what we have here and how we can promote things.
Awesome.
Good questions.
And okay, so we got another question we're going to take that came in earlier from my friend Armando, also known as Carmondo, because he sells cars.
Okay.
Okay, so, and this is what a lot of people have in mind here, okay?
Okay.
So, again, if you guys are watching, hit the share button, ask questions if you want. Okay, so this is regards to windmills, okay? So we have all these windmills,
right.
And I guess the number is like over 500 windmills in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a possibility of a hydro break for our area? And if so, if it's possible, why hasn't it been done? Because, we hear, everybody that lives pretty much in Ontario, that we have all this green energy and we see all these windmills, but in our brains it doesn't really add up because you have all this new hydro generating electricity generating windmills,
mm-hmm.
but our hydro rates seem to go up and we're paying
mm-hmm.
more. So I think that's kind of what is there in place. Like, we're the ones that kind of have to see all these things, and if you see the area, it could also be the cause of water well issues. I'm not certain on that, but it kind of, in my brain, again, you see these things and it adds up. Is there a possibility that our area should be able to get some sort of break on these these high hydro costs. You know what I mean? Because we're the ones that got to look at it.
Yeah, okay, and that's a really good question. And again, I've been doing this for 15 days. I mean, certainly when I was out at Rondeau, I noticed I flew into our Charing Cross. I flew into our Charing Cross airport, and I was amazed at night to see how many windmills there were. It was just wind turbines, sorry. Wind turbines. I do have 2 degrees, but I just slipped up. Don't get me on that point. Wind turbine issues. Here's what I do know, and here's what I'd like to know more of. I need to know more details. I'm meeting with Kevin Jakubic shortly, just after this, and a family that's affected by water wells. We have to determine what's happening there. We have got to determine what's happening there. We have to see how those wells are being affected and if they're being affected in other areas. I've tried to, with the tiny window of opportunity right now, to do as much research as possible. So I'm not sure if you are aware, but there are 3 major wind turbine countries that have wind turbines. So China's first, and then the United States actually is next, and then Germany is next. So I was reading up on what Germany is doing, and I know I've heard from several individuals, have you checked into what Germany is doing? And so they do more of a partnership with people, and I know we do have to have hosts in order to put these wind turbines up on farms and host properties. So people need to be first and foremost educated and engaged and willing to have these turbines. It's not like someone just comes in and says, let's put a turbine on your property. I mean, clearly they need to be engaged. I like what Germany's doing. I don't know if we can piggyback onto that. I'm a huge proponent of best practices. Why are we reinventing the wheel? We've done that consistently over the last several decades in Chatham-Kent, Leamington, and we don't need to. Other people, other jurisdictions have done what we have done. Why is this happening? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geologist. I'm glad they have Heather down. She's from the UN. She's doing some great work. I met her the other night at one of the debates. She's doing some great work with Kevin and the water well issues. We can't have unsafe water, and if this doesn't get me votes or releases me from, I don't think it will. My heart is for people. I believe the Liberal Party cares for people. It's not about cuts. It's not about chaos, and we need to really keep that in mind. These are the facts here. Please keep that in mind on June 7th when you go to the polls.
All right.
I would like us to get some money. I think there could be a better partnership.
Money.
A better partnership. Health is important, and then yes, funding and funds for wind turbines and being able to share that.
So
I think it's great. I think we should look at what Germany's doing.
So I think I don't know if that really answers the kind of question. It answers part of it. Is that what my question was about? It could affect the water. We don't know. We always need more facts. But when people open up their hydro bill, or even the day before, they're thinking that bill is coming, especially those on fixed incomes, and in this area we do have a lot of seniors, many people on fixed incomes, many people living on minimum wage and going day to day. They have a major anxiety when that hydro bill comes, and again, they're seeing all these wonderful wind turbines generating electricity. They're everywhere in this area, but they really don't feel any good. There's nothing good that they feel when they open up that hydro bill, especially over the last period of time. So I think, I don't know if it's a possibility or not, and this is kind of where this is like, who knows, of a hydro break for our area for hosting all these things, because we have to look at them, but maybe also, what can we do with the cost of hydro in general? Okay. Is there an answer to that? Because as you know, your conservative, opposition here are saying that they can reduce it, right? Can you reduce it yourselves? Okay. So 2 answers to that, or sort of a two-pronged approach. For our area, I do want to link though that in Germany they do, for their areas, for their sections that have more, they do get kickbacks for their areas. I don't know if they do it per check. I don't know what the actual
formula is it per family, is it within radius? Let's look at that. We should really look at that.
That's a good one.
Number two, our hydro issues right now are due to, and this is a fact, and I've lived through this as a frontline worker, our hydro issues right now are due to the fact when Mike Harris came in, they made a mess of things. Statistically, we know that. It's factual. I don't care if people are upset with me that I'm saying that. I don't care if you say, okay, I'm going to put another color sign out. I don't even care. I'm not concerned, I should say. I don't care. I'm not concerned with what sign you have on your lawn. I want you to try to get the facts before June 7th. And I'm going to try to get the facts as well. I want truth here. I would not have done this. I wouldn't put my name on the ballot. I wouldn't try to represent you if these weren't facts. I have a binder here. You can see it. Yes, there's stats. I gathered 54 pages of stats on the things that our Liberal Party has done and some of the things that other parties are proposing. I'm not about they did this wrong, you did this right, we did this wrong. We could do that all day. I was at Queen's Park several months back visiting a friend and a relative in Toronto, and when I got to Queen's Park, I was in the East Lobby, and at the end of session, three different parties, three different individuals from three different parties approached me and knew me in three different manners. And I said, this is interesting. Collectively, we're standing here, I mean, legislature had been adjourned, but the three of us are standing here having a good conversation. Why can't we do that in Parliament? I would do that as an MPP. I would try to make sure it is not about arguing or bullying or trying to push our way through. We need to be better representatives as MPPs. That's all of us. That's all of us. That's all of us. I don't care what party you're with. I've seen badgering from every party, and it doesn't move us forward. And what does it teach our children? We've got to really, really think about how we do politics. Here's my hydro responses. I am reading them. You're right. If you're upset about that, these are the stats that I know and I've learned in 15 days. Okay? Hydro 1. I know that people are concerned about the partial sale of Hydro 1. The Liberal government made the choice to leverage the value of Hydro 1 so that we could make much needed investments in infrastructure. There was a mess that needed to be cleaned up. Electricity prices continue to stay in terms of comparison to other areas. We actually are in comparison and much less than other jurisdictions, Families in Charlottetown, Regina, Halifax, and Moncton are paying more than the Ontario average, okay? So let's be clear about that. We also have worked in Ontario Works. We've had programs where we've assisted low-income families when they've had issues, and now there is a mandate. We don't want to do any type of hydro shutoffs. So we want to make sure that people always have access to hydro. That's important for our dignity, for our health, for our children, for our families, for our seniors. We've been told that the electricity prices have been high lately. Sorry, I just kicked the camera.
That's okay.
We've been told that the electricity prices have been high lately, and we're doing something about that as Liberals. With the elimination of coal, our electricity is now 96% emissions free. Think about this now. We have a generation of children in Chatham, Kent, Leamington. Listen, 1 out of 5 has had health or breathing issues. This is huge. But we have had no smog days because we've now made sure that we are trying to have clean air. And that does cost us. But look at the benefit. Really, I do believe this. I've seen this. I've seen different governments come in and go out. And I know that a lot of the electricity issues we're dealing with right now, and you can believe me or not, you can swear at me, I've had people yell at me about this, but I'm glad about that because then at least they're engaged. They're engaged in a process. But please get the facts right. Please get the facts right.
So I hear a lot of times the comparison to other areas, that we're lower than other areas. But for the most part, when somebody goes to pump their gas, when they go to open their bill for hydro, they're not really thinking, well, at least it's better than these other areas. Because at the same time, you can start applying that to all our social programs, right? You're offering all these social programs. You could almost say, well, it's better than the Congos in Africa, right? Jurisdiction-wise, so why do we have to supply you this?
Kind of a
It's the same thing, but when somebody goes there, the argument is, we're paying less than another area, but it really doesn't matter because that's just a different area. We're in our area. And so when people open their bills, when a 75-year-old woman who's living by herself, who has to make eating or hydro decisions, I mean, that's a big, big deal. And she does not care what Saskatchewan's doing or any other place in the world's doing. It matters right here. So is that what you're asking, Liz? I think the jurisdictions justify our high prices.
That's a good question, Liz. That is a good question. Does it justify that we're able to breathe better? Yeah. Yes. Is that 75-year-old able to breathe better? Yes. So some of those things we need to take into consideration. We spent $70 billion cleaning up. $70 billion. That's a lot of money. Of course it is. And so of course it's going to take some time for us to regulate that. But really a lot of that happened, and many of these issues are happening because when the previous Conservative government was in power provincially, there were things that were not taken care of. There were things that were taken care of for elite individuals that had concerns, but we have to balance the scales. We know that. I don't know how you can vote for a party that doesn't have a plan, that's going to slash, cut, reduce, fire, get rid of things, yet have all of these wonderful programs. Come on. Have to realize those are not facts. We all know that. We all know that those can't be facts, especially Mike Harris at least had a plan in place, an actual platform, a strategic plan in place as to what was going to happen. We don't see that now with the Conservatives. So we've really got to think about that when it comes to June 7th. And really those are the things that make my job somewhat difficult right now, and that I'm trying to do the best I can to let people really be aware of what the facts are.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times is that the facts are two different things. There's how people really feel, okay, and the data, the facts that way. But the real fact that ends up generally mattering in elections is how does one feel when they're pumping gas into their car, when they look at that cost? How does one feel when they pay the high? That's the number one thing, that's the number one fact, is that the people that live here have to deal with this anxiety every day. And so how do we because a lot of people are more than willing to maybe have coal or whatever, you know what I mean, if it means that they can live a better life. And I know the math may not work out for you that way, but no, really.
Those are really good questions. And the people would prefer, while they're pumping gas, that instant moment. So we talk about short-term pain for long-term gain and where our investments are. And if we're pumping that gas for that moment, we're going to feel wonderful if the gas prices are really low. Number one, you cannot say you're going to lower gas prices like that. You can't just automatically say you're going to have jurisdiction as a province over our global oil and gas prices unless you slash taxes there that have to do with emissions. So how are you going to drive your car if you have potholes the size of a block if you're not putting the infrastructure money in and you're reducing it from taxes? So there's two ways. The Conservative leader is talking about slashing gas prices. Wow, what a wonderful magic wand that person must have. Because how can you slash these prices without still investing in infrastructure, roads, and the things that are important? So be very, very careful when you're hearing things that sound wonderful. Yes, you might vote on things that are opinion, but get the facts straight. And that's what people are saying to me. They're saying, I had a blue sign on my lawn and there's no way I can have that leader in control of me that has already said 4 things and has already gone back on them in a matter of 2 weeks. It just needs to be changed. It needs to be people who actually care about people. We don't want chaos in here. We've seen it in other countries around the globe. We can't afford to have chaos in Chatham, Kent, Leamington, We have not been considered, and we need someone who has a voice and who cares about us. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have all the answers? I don't, but you do. Some of you have given us some great answers, some great suggestions. I love the democratic process. We can come together and learn this. Ben, opening yourself up to doing this and not having to interview before. This is great. And I do believe we can come together, and I will try to find answers. I am trying to meet with, I've had 246 emails from different interest groups, agencies. I'm trying to meet with as many people as possible and get onto those doors and continue door knocking and meeting people face to face and showing them that I have a voice and that with Margaret you matter. And that's what I'm going to be doing in the next 21, I guess it's 21 days left of this campaign.
Okay. So if you guys got one more question, we're going to try and wrap this up real quick here. Maybe he'll stop giving billions away. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, kind of get them in quickly. Please share this, and we're going to try to have Margaret back on another time if you got more questions later. So we're going to try and wrap it up. Concrete medium barrier between London and Tilbury on Highway 401. What's the status of that? How do we get that, or what do you know about that?
Okay, so I met with Minister Catherine McGarry, and she is the Transportation Minister, and we had about an hour-long discussion in one of the boardrooms. I'm very, very passionate about 401. I have family members, relatives, and friends clearly that are using the 401 and Highway 3. We need the expansion, so safety is the biggest concern. And I'm concerned because the current MPP actually voted against the safety of the expansion of number 3. Huge concern. So we need to get our facts straight again. Is safety really a concern of your current MPP? The Build the Barrier, it's the people on the ground here who've done a lot of the legwork for that, and they need to be commended. There is a liberal two-prong approach to that. And basically the first prong, and this is statistics, and if you want to do the work as well, you certainly can. Do we want a concrete barrier? Absolutely. The first thing we need to do is to have the cables put in, the safety cables put in. And then we have to continue on with environmental assessments to determine what we can do to widen the road. When Pat Hoy was in power, 4 of those things he put into place. He put in the, I'm not sure what the name of are there, so that when you're going off the road, it's the safety bumps. The rumble strips, thank you, the rumble strips. They put in photo radar, which was something, they widened the road at the time of his time, and they put some, cement down. They cemented it a little bit to make it safer than it was. So he did 4 things specifically. People came to him that were concerned about it, and that's what he did to move things forward. Safety cables, and then concrete barrier. And that's what the Liberal government is promising. We're not promising pie in the sky. Oh, when we come in, we're going to drop down this concrete barrier, and that's what we're going for, even though we're cutting many things. So think about that. I know there was a comment there, Dwayne, you said maybe he'll stop giving billions away. I don't think that's happened, but what he will do is he will start taking that money from you if there's going to be cuts, and that's not good. Dwayne, it doesn't add up, the math doesn't add up, and you can disagree with me, and I appreciate your comments because this is a democratic process, so that's good.
I'm fairly certain Dwayne's going to go with the disagree.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. That was going to be the last one. Did we got one more?
Democracy.
Did we got a little bit of time for one more?
I've got to go.
She's got to go.
I've got to go.
Okay.
I've got to go.
All right. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I can come back.
So Liz, we'll get to that question after, and she'll probably answer it by text.
Yeah. Declining population. We need to get our youth back here, but we also need to be open to newcomers. We have to be open to newcomers. It's not happening with the Conservative government. Thank you, and thank you out there. Keep promoting democracy. Love the fact that you're engaged. That's awesome.
All right. Thank you very much.
Margaret Schleier-Stahl on June 7th. I'll try to do what I can.
Awesome.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Okay.